This video will demonstrate the alternating cast-on method used in preparation for double knitting when creating a tubular cast-on edge. You begin with your project yarn. You need to have a tail, the length of which is half the number of stitches that you intend to cast on. I'm not going to cast on a whole lot, so my tail is not going to be terribly long. I'm going to make a slip knot. I'm going to hold the tail end of the yarn over my thumb and the working yarn over my index finger, and I'm going to hold it in slingshot method like long tail cast on. This is my starting position. Your needle is pointing to the left and it's in the center, pointing to your palm in the center of the two strands. The stitch on the needle represents a knit stitch, and you have to hold it still with your right index finger so that the bump at the base of the stitch does not travel. We're going to want all the bumps on the stitches to be at the base of the needle. So this is a knit stitch. I'm going to work a purl stitch. To work a purl stitch, you take the tip of your needle from the starting position over behind your index finger yarn, down underneath both yarns, bring it up in front of the thumb yarn, take the tip of the needle back under the finger yarn and up into the starting position, and you've caught one stitch. That would be a purl stitch. A knit stitch will begin at the starting position, bring your needle under the thumb yarn, over the finger yarn, bring the finger yarn back up in front of the thumb yarn, and return to starting position. That's a knit stitch. And if you look at this stitch, you can see that it's open at the base and that it resembles a knit stitch. Whereas the stitch before that, the purl stitch, has a little base at the bump. A bump at the base. All right, so into starting position, we're going to do a purl stitch. Go behind the finger yarn, under both yarns, up in front of the thumb yarn, take the tip of the needle back under the finger yarn and up to starting position, purl stitch. You can see there's a little bump at the base. Knit stitch. Go in front of the thumb yarn, over the finger yarn, back under the thumb yarn and up, purl stitch. Under the finger yarn, over the thumb yarn, under the finger yarn and up, knit stitch. Under the thumb yarn, over the finger yarn, under the thumb yarn and up, purl stitch. Over the finger yarn, under the thumb yarn, under the finger yarn and up. So I'm going to start to do a little bit of a rhythm here. For a knit stitch, starts in front, ends up in front. Purl stitch, starts in back, ends up in back. Knit stitch, purl stitch, knit stitch, purl stitch. And if you look at the bottom of the needle, you'll see all of the bumps at the bottom of the needle here. As you're making the stitches, you'll feel some yarn being used. Some stitches use the yarn from the thumb, others use the yarn from the finger. You just have to give it the yarn that it needs, make sure that the bumps stay underneath the needle, and you're ready to go. Let's do just a couple more. We're ready for a knit stitch. Starts in the front, goes over the back, comes to the front, and in your starting position. Purl stitch, starts in the back, comes to the front, goes back to the back, and your starting position. So that's the alternating cast on. We're going to use this to set up for double knitting for a nice tubular cast on edge. One thing that you have to realize is that the last stitch that you cast on is very easily taken apart. You need to take your two ends and just kind of twist them around a little bit to kind of hold them so that it doesn't become dislodged as you're working with it. You're going to end up turning your needle around and you're going to start working with this. And if this comes apart, you're going to lose that stitch. So you just take those ends, just give them a little bit of a twist there so that you can hold them enough to work with them on your next row.